doing fine, Pastor James. Hello, everyone.
Well, Phyllis, this is how the spotlight works, okay? Before we get into the book and all the fun stuff, I want to know, and my audience wants to know, how did Jesus Christ come into your life?
Well, I've always believed in Jesus Christ. I was raised in a Christian home. I had family that every Sunday we would have to gather around the table and say the Lord's Prayer. I had got this huge children's Bible as a child, and came home every day from school and read it.
Wow.
I've also been a Sunday school teacher for over 30 years.
Wow, a Sunday school teacher. Where at?
At Liberty Hill Baptist Church. I'm retired now.
You say you're a retired Sunday school teacher.
I started early.
Wow. Yeah, because you don't look over 30. So. You must have started when you were 1 year old. So Phyllis, connect the dots for me. From, serving the Lord, being a Sunday school teacher, to this fabulous new book, Beating the Odds. How did you go from that to an author?
Well, I always liked to write, and I always wanted to write a book, but I wanted to write a book about someone else and their successes. And then one day someone said, why don't you write a book about yourself? So I was like, all right. It took me a little while to think about it, what I wanted to do. So I decided to write the book. It took me 2.5 years to write the book.
2.5 years?
2.5 years.
Wow. And tell us about the reason you wrote. I mean, I'm sure because someone said, okay, Phyllis, why don't you write a book? But it had to be a passion to write such a great book.
It did. I wrote this book because I wanted to encourage others.
Yeah.
A lot of times, like the saying says, the grass looks greener on the other side. Sometimes on the outside, people be looking like everything's okay, but at the end of the day, it's not. So I wrote this book about Sofia Blue and her family.
Okay.
To understand, everything that's glitter doesn't mean that it's gold. And also to encourage others who is having a tough time in life, and you can make it if you continue to try and be positive. And this book is not about a rags to riches story. It's about just surviving on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, something practical, something that anyone and everyone could use. Give us an example of maybe one of the chapters or one of the main points about surviving or living day to day.
Okay, well, Sophia had some health issues that she could not figure out what was going on with her. The doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with her. Sophia works every day dealing with the public, so she had to go to work every day, drop her children off, and just try to fight whatever was going on with her. And then, like nothing was going on. Because people don't really know, just because a person put a smile on their face doesn't mean that everything is okay.
Right. And how does Sophia deal with negativity?
Turn it around into a positive.
Okay.
Set examples. One of my favorite sayings is, set an example and not be made an example of. And a lot of times people want to see things in order to believe.
Right. Yeah, that's an old cliche.
Yeah.
I'll believe it when I see it. Right? Now, in your writings, for those that are watching and listening and say, man, I want to become an author, I want to write a book, what kind of practical advice would you give them?
You have to be very positive that you can write a book.
Yes.
You have to do your due diligence. Proofreading is good. It takes up a lot of your time.
Okay.
Sometimes you may be up late writing. Anything that you think of about, as you go about your day. I have a tape recorder. Tape it or jot it down, because you may forget. Like sometimes I was like, wow, well, what was that thought that I was going to have to put in the book? So I go back and I listen to my tape recorder. Make it fun. Sometimes it's tough to write a book, while everybody's out having a good time, you're sitting in the house writing your book.
Okay.
So I would do things like, I like colors.
Okay.
So I would do like write things in colors, my words and thoughts in colors. And I would say believe in yourself, because sometimes it gets a little tough where you think, oh my goodness, I'm not going to be able to finish this, because I thought the same thing.
Okay.
But I just kept going. Anytime, sometimes you may get writer's block,
Right.
and that's a true thing. But don't worry, as long as you know this is what you want to do, you can do it. And
So you focus on your destination,
right,
and you don't look at the circumstances
Right.
that are going on in your life at that
Right,
time.
right.
So, I'm just curious, is there any special place you like to go to get inspiration? Like when you get writer's block, do you go to the park or the lake, or I mean, what do you do, or do you just live through it until that inspiration comes again? How does
Music.
that work? Music.
I love music. I
Okay.
put on my headsets, and if I could think of some thoughts, I'll start writing down. A lot of times I would, while I'm writing,
Yeah.
I would have on my headsets listening to some old school music.
Old school music. Okay.
Some Christian music, some Isaac Hayes.
Okay. And that gives you, that helps overcome.
Inspiration.
Exactly. Now, have you written anything other than this book?
Actually, I'm glad you brought that up, Pastor.
Okay.
I have 4 other books on the back burner.
Wow.
I taught Sunday school for 30 years, as we mentioned earlier.
Yes.
Excuse me. I taught 6 through 8-year-olds. So I got a children's book waiting for them, and then I have another book about empowerment for the adults, and then I have another book about children's for their likings.
Okay. So children, you love children. You got any children of your own?
I do. I have 3. I have 2 daughters and I have a son.
Okay, big, older folks now.
They're grown adults.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, in your writings, this particular book, you say it's a fictional, or is it sort of both? 'Cause I know you said you should write a book about yourself, but is it about you particularly, or is it about a fictional character?
I'm glad you I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
When I first started writing this book, I changed the title a few times. I changed the locations. At first I actually had my name in it and
Okay.
where I live, but I changed everything about it. So it's a fictional book based on true events.
Got it.
And what I learned in the library, I couldn't understand why some books that was true was in a fictional section. So the librarian said if it's not a documentary,
Got it.
then it's considered fictional, but it's based on true events.
Now, why do you think someone wouldn't be interested in Sophia's life?
Because I hear about so many people having such a tough time, and some people, they give me the impression that it's hard for them to just get up out the bed. And I think Sofia, actually, the writer of the story in the book, Sofia is telling her story. She is saying she is the person that wrote this book.
Right.
And she is saying, all the struggles she went through as a child and serious illnesses that she bounced back from by the grace of God. She was still able to write this book. Sofia put in this book when she was a child, she could not speak for long periods of time because of the illness she was in.
Yeah.
Now, Sofia is representing me, Phyllis.
Right.
So as you all can see, I'm talking now. So that is by
Powerful.
the grace of God.
That's very powerful. That's very powerful. And so now you love to talk.
You can't shut me up.
But before, you were dealing with an illness that prevented you from being able to talk.
Right. I really don't know what they would call what they call it. Some people, what I've learned, when you can't diagnose something, they want to blame it on a mental breakdown or something like that. I was watching this movie called Brain on Fire on Netflix. And I can relate to it because the young lady, she was a lot older than me when I got ill. I got ill when I was 13.
Okay.
And some of her symptoms was very close to what I experienced and what Sophia talks about in this book. But it's just a blessing to not to have to be on medication or anything. I think it took me, well, Sophia, me,
Right.
about 2 to 3 months to bounce back.
Okay.
But I had a lot of support too.
Okay. And what age was this?
This was 13.
13. Now, let me ask you. Now that you bounced back and everything, had you figured out what took place? I mean, was there something that was traumatic that happened, or just?
Well, in the book, she talks about Sophia, about just being the environmental change and the differences that was
Okay.
very detrimental on her.
Sure.
And people just didn't realize it or understood
Right.
how it was taking a toll on her
You know,
and on her life.
it's interesting you say that because I was watching a movie yesterday. I think it was yesterday, and the mother of this young boy was falsely accused for murder, and he wouldn't talk to her. You know, they would go visit her in jail and everything, and he just wouldn't talk to her. And he wouldn't give her a kiss, but because I guess it was because he was young and it was traumatic on him, and he just couldn't communicate with his mother. Tell us, where do we get this book? How do we get our hands on this
Goodness.
book?
It's doing so well on Amazon. It's in one of the best sellers, and I'm ranking pretty high as an author.
Wow.
And you can get it at Barnes and Noble. Matter of fact, you can come to the West Side Crocker Park Barnes and Noble this Saturday at
Okay.
2 p.m. I'll be there book signing. Those who already bought a book can bring your book. I'll sign it.
Okay.
You can buy a book there. Where else? Books A Million. It's sold everywhere. If it's not in the bookstore, it's online.
It's online with Amazon. And So, are you going on a book tour?
A small one. I'm
Okay.
going to start in Cleveland, where I live, and I'm going to start this Saturday
Right.
at Crocker Park,
Right.
Barnes and Noble at 2 o'clock. Then June, that's on the west side of Cleveland.
Right.
Then June 15th, I'm coming east side at the Barnes and Noble off of University Circle in Mayfield, where the Case Western Reserve bookstore is a part of. My
Okay.
hometown is Michigan, Detroit.
Wow. Okay.
I'm going to be at Allen Park August 10th from 1 to 3 o'clock.
Wow.
And I would like to, I'm working on trying to get a book tour, book signing in New York, because this is where this book, the publishing company, Page Publishing, they
Okay.
did an excellent job. This is where the book publishing company
Okay.
derived from. And I would also like to go to Chicago and Atlanta.
Right. Sure. Hey, have a good time at all those places. Those are some good
Right,
places.
uh-huh.
Now, one of my last questions, in the publishing, was this self-published or did someone pick it up?
Someone picked it up.
Wow.
How this came about, I was working on my book anyway, and I was watching TV in my living room, and a commercial came on about Page Publishing. So I gave them a call and asked for a kit. So I followed the instructions. I had an agent at the time. There
Got
was
it.
no charge. I had an agent, and he followed me and checked on me as far as how I was going with the book for about a couple of years. Then I had to submit it. They say they don't take everybody's work. So it took me a week to open up the email because I'm like, oh my goodness, what if they didn't accept it? So he gave me a call. He said, Phyllis, check your email.
Right.
Your book has got accepted. And I would do a book with them again.
Wow.
They're
Excellent.
a great company. To me, I like them.
Excellent. Yes, you got the code on the bottom of the Well, Phyllis, as always, it's a pleasure talking with you, and also too, just a little sidebar, you were awarded the agent of the year, I think, for
Yes, for the company I work for. I don't think they mind. I think they would like the kudos.
Okay.
For ABC Management Company, I was
Yes.
their property of the year, and they have properties in several states.
Wow. And you were the one that
The property manager of the year.
Well, congratulations to you. May God continue to bless you on all of your endeavors. And folks, you heard it right here first on KAZ Radio with none other than author Phyllis Goldsby, the author of Beating the Odds. So if you want to know how to beat the, oh, yes, right, hold that book up. If you want to know how to beat the odds, you know, it's like she said, it's not a rag to riches story. It's just a good, practical way of living your life with maybe you may have a few issues in your life, but Phyllis' book can help you walk through those. Amen.
Just having faith.
Just
and
having
believing.
faith. Well, Phyllis, as always, it's a pleasure talking to you. You want to give any shout outs before we go off the air?
All my Facebook friends that's been rooting me on. My cousin in Detroit, I gotta say her name, Margaret Cobb, I love you. My daughters, Milan, Shayla, my son Terrence, all my Instagram followers, thank you, I love you. My sister Sharia, that she always liked my pages. And everybody, my mom, my father.
Amen.
And you, Pastor James.
Thank you. Well, I always end my spotlight interviews like this. I love you, Jesus loves you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Until
Amen.
next time, amen.